From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, this is Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. In today's show, Mark wraps up his conversation with Kevin Scholl of Syngenta. I have the latest U.S. export sales numbers with Greg McBride of Allendale, and Dustin visits with Jake Walker of Nutrien. Now here are your hosts, Mark Magnuson and Dustin Huffman.
Welcome into another edition of Iowa Ag Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. We've been talking a lot about the implications from the conflict in Iran this week. And at least to start the day this morning, the markets had really taken off in the green on the grain side. We saw big gains for wheat, large gains as well for soybeans, and corn was up a little bit as well, Dustin. It's one of those days where we have green on the screen pretty much across the board in the grains, although the livestock a little bit more quiet and near neutral. But starting to see all these knock-on effects from the war make its way to other areas, and right now it's finding it into the ag marketplace, including the grains.
Yeah, that it is. And, you mentioned livestock more neutral, but in the beginning, I know I saw that cattle were down over $3 on both lives and feeders. So to have them come back closer to break even is a little bit better. Of course, other news that we are watching besides Iran that has effect on the ag market is the House Ag Committee did pass out their version of the Farm Bill. So now it moves forward, and we'll see if it gets to the full House and what happens from there. Of course, the Senate's got to get the work done on theirs as well. And then hopefully, if the House and the Senate can pass something, we get a conference committee and hopefully get something done. But not a lot of people holding their breath. I mean, considering that we are several years, 3 years now overdue for a new farm bill, we should already be talking about replacing, as we've said before many times. Good news, we'll take it, but it's still got a long way to go before we get to that light at the end of the tunnel.
And some of the details from Farm Bill 2.0, Representative Eric Sorensen of Illinois attempted to amend the bill to include language enabling the year-round sales of E15, but that amendment did not pass. And the bill still includes language that would eliminate California's Proposition 12. We know that is one that the swine side of the industry has really been hoping to include in a farm bill. That did make it. However, E15 did not, which we kind of knew was going to be the case, as right now some of those refineries are really holding their ground when it comes to oil producers and making life difficult for getting E15 passed.
Yeah, that it is. And of course, obviously we've mentioned before those oil state congressional people are going to be looking to keep their votes. And so if they go and support something like that, especially in election year, they're probably not going to get much favorable response from their constituents back home. So you can understand the situation they're in. And, if it has to be state by state, they've got the paperwork or the blueprint now to do that. Because Iowa and the other 7 Midwestern states that have approved it for year-round use have already done that legwork. And so it still can be done. And, if they have to bypass the federal government, I guess that's what they're going to have to do. We're going to go ahead and jump into those markets. As Mark mentioned, they had a strong start, and we're going to see how they're holding up here as he talks with Matt Bennett of agmarket.net to get things rolling on a Friday.
Joined today by Matt Bennett of agmarket.net for the opening market discussion. Matt, a lot of green on the screen to start the day. What's happening with the trade in the grains?
Yeah, clearly there's buying coming into this deal. You look at, what's gone on with the war situation. It's just raised a lot of question marks as to world flows of multiple things. Clearly, crude has been one of them. Crude's up $20 on the week. Just an absolutely incredible showing. You closed last Friday. Let's see, I believe last Friday we closed at 67.02 on April, and as we speak, we're sitting here at $88. And so clearly we're raising energy. Okay. So you're going to see some buying come in, to corn and beans. With that being the case, obviously margins look better, as oil would move higher, and so the other thing is of course, there's some question marks as fertilizer flows around the world, whether you're talking urea, anhydrous, there's definitely a lot of fertilizer that moves through the Strait of Hormuz. So, there was a comment that someone made yesterday. They were floating around social media that every week that this war goes on, we are subject to lose 1 million acres of corn. Now, I don't know that I agree with that, but there's a lot of thoughts there, because those that did not use fall anhydrous, that typically go in the spring, there could be some question marks on availability. So we've talked to multiple growers who've said they just can't even buy fertilizer right now. So, I mean, it's a sketchy situation. It could change over the weekend. There's no doubt. But as of right now, there's a lot of angst here.
And to that last point, we've been talking about that a lot in the office here this week. Would it be enough if that were to come to fruition? Would that throw things out of balance with farmers planting more soybean acres if they were to do that?
I'll tell you what, Mark, I've been talking about this all winter, but the thing is you've got record world demand, record U.S. demand, and that's fine and well. If you can keep producing, the market's just going to be blasé and dead, just like it was a year ago. The problem is if you start to whittle down corn acres, you don't have to whittle very much. I mean, I've been saying since the Outlook Forum number was posted at 94, and I know that's just a spitball number, but you've got a 94 million acre number. When I throw that in my balance sheet, given the kind of demand we've seen, I'll tell you what, things get tight rather quickly. Well, what it necessitates is that you've got to have a really strong corn yield. And so let's just go to demand. I mean, demand for this year is at 16.4 billion bushels. To me, you've got to understand we've only had 1 year in the history of the U.S. we've produced more than that. So there's a very real chance that if demand would stay as strong this year as what it's been, you could whittle into that carry out very quickly. Now, the one way to curb demand, of course, is with higher prices. So it's always a moving target. But I'll tell you, Mark, you can't afford to lose a lot of corn acres here. This export situation has been nothing short of phenomenal. We're just vastly ahead of the USDA pace right now. We should back off with higher prices. But at the same time, I'll tell you, world and U.S. balance sheets have continued to show that demand is an all-time record. And you just can't whittle down acres too much.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
Well, as I promised you before, we are back on Iowa Ag Matters, and we are going to go into that export sales report and find out what is in it for this week. Of course, this is for the week ending last week before all the trouble started globally, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the future. Riley Smith visits with Greg McBride of Allendale.
On the phone right now with Greg McBride of Allendale as we take a look at the weekly U.S. export sales report. And Greg, what do we see in the corn numbers for this week?
Yeah, corn came in very good. This was a record for this particular week. Just over 2 million tons of old crop, 2.022 million tons were sold. You had the new crop actually sold 154,000 tons. So very good total week of just under 2.2 million tons. This will look good for us. Does keep the question out there of if the USDA needs to raise again the export demand number on one of these upcoming WASDE reports. Obviously, probably a little bit too late to say they need to do it on Tuesday's report, but it could very well come in April.
And then on the soybean side of things, I know that those numbers were not exactly as optimistic as the corn numbers, right?
Yeah, we did see that China was a minor buyer of beans this week, but nothing that was truly all that great. I think it was 153,000 tons, but most of that was switched from unknown destinations. So that means that it was already kind of baked into the pie. We already knew those sales had happened. We just assigned a name to them. So overall, the sales in soybeans were lackluster. This is 4 out of the last 5 weeks that we've seen weaker sales. This came in at 383.5 thousand tons. The low end estimate was 300,000. So we were inside the range, but this is still below the 5-year average. So this is a disappointment, and it really kind of shows at this time of the year how little we are getting when it comes to sales versus Brazil, who is significantly less expensive than we are.
And I know with those averages that we are looking at, yes, who gets the sales at this time of year? Brazil, of course, like you mentioned, having the lower prices right now. But I think, like you were mentioning as well, it's such a complex global situation right now with, now we have war in the Middle East. We've got the sales situation with China, that there's really a lot of factors that make this maybe a bit of a almost unprecedented situation that we're going through with the export sales, right?
It is. I mean, we don't typically look for big sales at this time of the year. We know that Brazil and, even Argentina at some point here in the very near future are going to be harvesting, or they are harvesting. But the situation is that they have cheaper beans at this time of the year every year anyway. They've got the freshest supply available, and it's ready to go. So they're making these sales at this time. And it won't be until we get to about June or July that we see the new crop sales start to come in. The old crop sales situation is going to be very minor, or should be very minor going forward, unless, and you kind of talk about some of the things that are going on, unless there's a deal that's made on top of what we already know when Trump and Xi get together at the end of the month.
All right, Greg, lots of great information today. For anyone who would like to get in touch for more marketing information from Allendale, how can they do that?
Give us a call at 800-2-MARKET. That's 800-262-7538.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
It's time to run down those elevator prices for you here on Iowa Ag Matters on this Thursday. I'm Dustin Huffman, seeing no changes at all in the cash bid numbers for the elevators that we're covering. Let's take a look at where they're pricing here today. At IAM Burlington, they're 15 cents under on corn, $4.30. Soybeans 28 cents under, they're at $11.43. At Cargill and Eddyville, they're 24 cents under on corn with a cash bid of $4.14. New Co-op Algona, 41 cents under on corn, $4.04. Soybeans 79 cents under, cash bid $10.92. Ag State Sheldon, 29 cents under on corn, $4.16. Soybeans 85 cents under, $10.86. Ag State Elta, 40 cents under on corn, $4.05. Soybeans 80 cents under, cash bid $10.91. Cargill Cedar Rapids, 19 cents under on corn, cash price is $4.19. Soybeans 45 cents under at $11.24. Five-Star Co-op Nashua, 31 cents under on corn, $4.14. Soybeans 70 cents under at $11.01. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada, 24 cents under on corn, $4.21 for the cash bid. ADM Des Moines, 50 cents under on soybeans at $11.19 for the cash price. New Co-op Red Oak, 33 cents under on corn, $4.12. Soybeans 80 cents under, $10.91. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain, 46 cents under on corn, cash bid $3.99. Soybeans 85 cents under, $10.86. New Co-op Sheraton, 35 cents under on corn. They're at $4.10. Soybeans 80 cents under at $10.91 for the cash price. Walk-On Feed Ranch, 45 cents under on corn, $4 even. Soybeans 73 cents under at $10.98. At New Co-op Glidden, they're 39 cents under on corn with a cash bid of $4.06. Soybeans are 79 cents under. They're at $10.92. At Innovative Ag Services Farley, they're 44 cents under on corn with a cash price of $4.01. And soybeans are 79 cents under with a cash bid of $10.92. In Cargill and Muscatine, the river's closed for the season. It will reopen for deliveries the week of March 23rd. Cash corn and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator when making sales to obtain the most recent price. And that's been a check of your basis numbers here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay informed with the closing market report from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, your essential summary of the day's market activities and their impact on the agricultural economy. Join us for timely updates and expert commentary on commodity prices and market trends with trusted ag market analysts from around the Midwest. Tune in every Monday through Friday on your local Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network affiliate for your daily market recap and insights to stay ahead in the ag economy.
Here on Iowa Ag Matters, it is time now for Dustin Huffman's conversation with Jake Walker of Loveland Products, which is part of the Nutrien company. And we are going to learn about the importance of early season management. Here's Dustin with more.
Commodity Classic 2026 in San Antonio at the Nutrien booth. Of course, Nutrien, one of our sponsors of our Commodity Classic coverage here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Thanks also to the Iowa Corn Growers Association, folks at Meristem and at Cropland as well. And right now with Jake Walker, he's with Nutrien, but he's also with Loveland Products. We talked back in Canada last fall and had a chance to talk there, but you guys have really let out a whole portfolio of stuff that we're going to be talking about today. Was it 26 new products that we're talking about?
Yeah, we've got over 20 different products across our product line, both here in the United States as well as the Canadian farmers that we're bringing new solutions to. Big portfolio already, but we're always looking for the next new thing that we can put in the hands of our customers.
So what are some of the things that you're excited about here that you're letting out this year?
Yeah, so look, we've got an all-in-one convenient adjuvant system that offers 5 different functions, to again really make it convenient for the grower to make sure that they're hitting water conditioning, grower penetration, deposition, drift control. As we think about going into the over-the-top dicamba applications, we're bringing back some of the materials that were essentially gone with that lack of that application. So Delta Lock will be our VRA option for the customers that are making those over-the-top applications. But also, we've got a number of DRAs that qualify for that over-the-top application. Plant nutrition wise, I know Ron Calhoun had just talked about Infinity, which is an exciting product for us, and some life cycle management within our portfolio around some of our plant nutrition products. And look, lastly, as we get into this planter box segment, and we've got a product called Awaken Shield Boost. This is a lubricity agent, help that seed improve singulation and get through the planter effectively. But also has a micronutrient package. And what makes it extremely unique is it has a biological insecticide in there to help control corn rootworm and some below ground pests. Hard to get all 26 out.
Right.
But that's just a couple of highlights as we're thinking through what it looks like next year.
Obviously, when we looked at last year, we talked about this in Canada. It was a year for anything got thrown. I think everything got thrown against the wall and a few things stuck. Sure. And, Southern Rust was one of the things. But obviously, getting off to a good start is very important. And the products are there for that. But then also making sure you can keep it stable until you can get back with another pass of nitrogen or another pass of fungicide. Talk about how those products help the farmers get there, because you never know. You might be able to squeak it through or you might have to come back. But knowing that you're at least covered and you don't have to run at it like an emergency is comforting.
Yeah, and certainly scenario to scenario, grower goals and the things that we're trying to accomplish very vastly in terms of how we go to market and we work with customers. So I'd always recommend getting into our branches and talking to a crop consultant so we can understand those needs and wants. If we're thinking about adjuvant systems, really kind of comes to mind when we're talking there. We have a few products in our portfolio that continue to grow at a very extreme rate. Product like Infuse, which is a product built to extend the residual of residual herbicides.
Okay.
And this is something that's going to give you another 3, 5, 7 days of residual. That's a weather event. Those 3 to 7 days, certainly as we think about Palmer amaranth and water hemp as fast as they grow, makes that second pass a much more manageable weed to go after with whatever classic chemistry you're thinking. When we think about, the year we had with Southern Rust and many growers going out there with 2 applications of fungicides, we saw this last season on a really broad geography, an adjuvant like Franchise Copilot, which is proven to it's specifically built for fungicides and improve the penetration and getting more active ingredient in the plant to get the most out of that, $18, $20, $30 application, depending on what you have in the tank. It's been a very effective tool for our customers.
Well, obviously, there's a lot of products, and of course, to have the conversation about what you need locally. Like you said, you did that, talk with your local retailers, talk with your local agronomy people to see what's working. I mean, where's the best way to get that started if you're looking at the products from Loveland for the first time?
Yeah, look, we can go to the Loveland Products website. LovelandProducts.com is a great place. Certainly, we have our Loveland Products sales managers that are in branches training our crop consultants. I think having that dialogue across the crop consultant and the grower always is going to be the most meaningful and impactful, because then we can understand what we're really kind of going after and what we're trying to do.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Well, Mark, if we don't need any more signs of spring, I mean, we got thunderstorms rolling through the area last night. We got about 71 hundredths in Ankeny, so definitely a lot of wetness out there in the area and getting some more moisture into the ground. And even saw some earthworms coming out and some night crawlers out on the lawn. So obviously spring is definitely going to be here, I would say, sooner rather than later.
Don't forget as well, we spring forward this weekend, so the clocks are going to jump forward an hour, and we're going to have longer days starting here very soon.
Don't remind me, Mark. Don't even do that to me. It's my worst day of the year. I hate losing sleep.
I'm the opposite. Once the sunlight is extending throughout the day and it's not getting dark at like 4:30, that is such a boost to my energy.
I'll give you that one, but I also hate the fact that it doesn't matter to me in the mornings because it's still dark when I get up in the morning to come in. So the daylight savings doesn't do much for me except keeps me from going to sleep at night.
I get that for sure. But it's just a general mood booster for me. I think it makes just life a little bit better when you're home and the sun is still out and you can still enjoy the day.
Yeah, I'll give you that. I mean, it does open up some activities, gives you some later options at night. I'm not completely depressed about it or anything. I just don't like the idea of giving up an hour of sleep. I'm more of the October person when I gain an hour of sleep. That's almost like my holiday. That's almost bigger to me than Christmas. More Iowa Ag Matters coming up in a moment.
Your local radio station brings you the local news you depend on. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network complements that with ag news, weather, and market updates tailored for Iowa's farmers. Together, we deliver the best of both worlds, local connection and industry expertise. It's all to keep you connected with the heartbeat of the heartland. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, connecting rural Iowa with the news that matters to you.
This is the Midday Market Update on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson. Joined at midday by Lori Carter of Comstock. Lori, a lot of green on the screen in the grains. What's happening in the trade today?
Like you said, green across the board. We have Kansas City wheat trading 21 cents higher pretty much across the board. Chicago 22 to 24 cents. We have old crop May corn up 5 cents. The new crop up 4.5. We have soybeans up 15.5 up front and 8.25 out in the new crop.
Do we point as the catalyst for all of this to the conflict in the Middle East right now? Is there anything else that's boosting things up in the grain side?
I would say mostly that and energy prices moving, dramatically higher because of that, which also is encouraging to the grains. Today, we also have a little bit of weakness in the dollar, which is different. We've had the dollar put on a lot in the last few days, and finally, actually, at the moment, the dollar index down 38. So that's attractive for the grains as well.
And when you mention that dollar, the value of the dollar going up, that's generally related to the money moving there when there's uncertainty, isn't there? So that would obviously be the case this week with everything that's happened?
Yes, that's correct. Usually like a safe haven kind of trade.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade today?
The cattle market's weak, especially the feeder cattle. At the moment, we have live cattle, fat cattle down $150 to $192, feeder cattle down $3 to $430. I'm sure looking over at least 5 cents up in the corn. The hogs at the moment are all up 20 to 35 cents.
And when we talk about the price movement we've seen in the cattle markets here this week, what do you make of what we've seen so far?
We've seen basically no direction on the cash in the cattle markets, either one, kind of back and forth, one day up, one day down, influenced a little bit by the grain. Probably on the other side, a lack of much information as far as cash trade, movement back and forth also in the box beef price some too.
What's the best way for our listeners to get in touch for more marketing information?
You can call me at 712-227-1171.
Lori Carter of Comstock, my guest here today. Thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.
That was Lori Carter with Comstock. We will have a check of the numbers next.
Start your weekend with insight and inspiration on Weekend Ag Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Every week we bring you an in-depth look at the top ag stories with a recap of the week's biggest headlines. Join us for long-format interviews with industry leaders and policymakers, giving you insights you won't hear anywhere else. And don't miss our faith-based segment with Russ Parker, Food for Thought, offering a perspective that helps bring clarity and focus to our lives. Make Weekend Ag Matters part of your weekend routine. Tune in every weekend on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.
May corn up 5 cents at $4.58.5. May soybeans up 16.5 at $11.95 3/4. May soybean meal up $5.80 at $3.15.10. May soybean oil up 49 cents at $66.19. Chicago wheat up 24 1/4 at $6.08. Minneapolis wheat up 14 cents at $6.33. Kansas City hard red wheat up 21 1/4 at $6.13 3/4. May oats up 8 cents at $3.42.5. On the Merc, April live cattle down $1.35 at $237.18. March feeder cattle down $3.03 at $359.58. April lean hogs up 45 cents at $96.13. Class 3 milk up 2 cents at $16.49.
That was a check of the midday markets on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Mark Magnuson.
Well, back into the markets we go here on Iowa Ag Matters, in time for a rundown of those livestock markets. Matt Bennett of agmarket.net once again joining up with Mark Magnuson to talk about what's happening in those cattle and hogs here today.
What's happening on the livestock side of the trade?
Yeah, I mean, you move over to livestock, is a different story. Cattle, obviously, a couple days ago, really strong day for fats, but then you come in here today, you're down $1.60. I mean, if we look at, kind of what the close was last week, you're at 232 on the April, and right now you're 236. So, I mean, basically, you're gaining a little bit of ground here. Last week was the first week, actually, that we saw cash trade for cattle down since about the end of November. Okay, so essentially, it looks like we're going to be back up again this week. But you look at the chart and you say, man, it just looks to me like we're going to really struggle to get back towards those old highs. I mean, I've said that all along. I feel like the investor's a little wary, a little unsure, about, hey, do I want to take that big of a risk? We know, for instance, this administration's super cognizant of food inflation, and they've done a lot to try to curb beef prices, which I don't really agree with, but they've done it, and I don't think that that's going to end anytime soon. And I just feel like that's kind of keeping people on the sidelines, as far as going whole hog into a long position here. So, yeah, no doubt in my mind, the fundamentals are still fantastic. It's just a matter of, do you have the money flow to be able to drive prices much higher than where we're at?
Matt Bennett of agmarket.net. Head to agmarket.net for more marketing information and resources. Thanks so much for the time. Always appreciate it, and have a great weekend.
Absolutely, you as well.
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Hi, my name is Ethan Smith, and I've been a certified crop advisor in Iowa for about 6 years. The Iowa CCA program is valuable to me because it helps keep me informed on new topics and research around the industry, including soils, insects, diseases, and much more. It's also a great way to network with others around the state and beyond. Iowa is known for its crops, and that's why we're here. To learn more about becoming a certified crop advisor, visit iowacca.org.
Stay up to date with the latest in the ag industry with Agribusiness Matters from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. Each weekday, we bring you the latest advancements in farming, from new precision ag technology to cutting-edge sustainable farming practices. Agribusiness Matters is also your source for the most relevant ag news, policy discussions, and insights that are shaping the future of agriculture. Tune in to Agribusiness Matters on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Well, we're back on Iowa Ag Matters, and we are going to be wrapping up the conversation Mark Magnuson had with the folks at Syngenta, talking about some of the things to get you ready for 2026 and things you need to be thinking about to get the most out of every acre.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Kevin Scholl. We are at the Syngenta exhibit at Commodity Classic in San Antonio, Texas. Kevin, could you tell me, please, your role here at the Syngenta organization, please?
Yes, I'm an agronomist that covers northern Illinois.
So you're located in Illinois, of course, very similar geography, similar conditions to the state of Iowa. Each and every year, we're worried about weeds, of course. Last year, we dealt with those issues when it comes to fungal disease in a big way. But on the insect side, was it a big year for for insect pressure last year? And what should we be thinking about going into this growing season?
Yeah, in northern Illinois, which I would assume would be going into Iowa also, we're starting to see an increase in corn rootworm pressure. And not only rootworm pressure, but traits are starting to wane on being able to control it. So that's where our new product that we have coming out now is Opello insecticide, and it does a really nice job on corn rootworm. Not only corn rootworm, but wireworm, white grub, and we also have the 2EE on black cutworm. So really nice product, brand new mode of action. Compatible with starter fertilizer, so you go starter fertilizer or water, and it's something that you can just dump right in your tank, and you're good to go.
And we've learned a lot at the network about Opello in the last couple of years, and you mentioned it, that mixability in the tank, and it is so able to mix with these fertilizers, and I've seen several of the demonstrations that show that so visually in a striking manner, really. And it's very interesting with that planazoline technology that it's able to mix so well. And it does really seem to be cutting edge technology.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, we talk to growers, and we can get the starter fertilizer that they're using. We can check our list to see if we've tested it. And if it's not on our list, we welcome to get a sample of that, send it into our lab in Greensboro, and we can test it out and make sure that it is. So, because we want to have a good experience for that grower in the planting season, because that's crunch time, and you don't want any problems happening in that time of the year.
And you're dead on there. I mean, I visited the site in Greensboro, and there was a farmer that was along with us, and he said, if that tank mix isn't going to mix the way you like it to, that's dead on arrival. He would automatically just cross that product off his list. So that's why he was so interested in Opello.
We've got a brand new robot in Greensboro that it's called the Atlas robot, proprietary to Syngenta, and we can run tank mixes all day long, making sure that we have good compatibility with products, or even tank mixes with other herbicides in some cases. So we know what works and what doesn't work, and we can provide that information to the grower.
And it was cool to see the robot in action. And also you can send in your water samples from all over the country. It showed that it was able to test that in terms of a tank mix and what that would be like in a real world application. Kevin, is there anything else you'd like to let our Iowa listeners, our Iowa farmers know about when it comes to anything that you're working on with Syngenta right now, or just anything you're excited about at Syngenta?
We do have another new product that we just brought to market this year called Vectrado. It's a seed treatment, and it's going to be stellar from a soybean cyst nematode standpoint. It's very, very good on sudden death syndrome, and a disease that's probably coming into Iowa. It's probably on the eastern side of Iowa right now, red crown rot. It does a really nice job on that. So it's kind of that next stage of seed treatment on soybeans to be able to protect soybean genetics to get to their full yield potential.
And Kevin, when we leave Commodity Classic here, if that mild winter that we've had so far, at least where I'm at in central Iowa, if that continues, it feels like farmers are going to be itching to get out there in the fields and get started here soon, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would just warn them not to go too early, because that first pass across the field can cause some economic problems later. But yeah, I agree with you. It's been kind of dry, and we're probably going to see the soybean planters running pretty soon. It seems like the nature of where we're at these days.
Every year it seems like soybean farmers are planting just a little bit earlier, and it's also yielded some really nice results for them. He is Kevin Scholl of Syngenta, my guest here today at Commodity Classic. Kevin, thanks so much for the time. Interesting conversation, and have a great rest of the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
In rural Iowa, you need reliable information. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network brings you ag-specific content like market trends, weather outlooks, and policy updates that matter to your operation, while your local station brings you community news and consistent updates on what is happening in your area. It's a partnership built for the challenges of rural life. Your farm, your local station, and your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters. Find us online at iowaagnet.com.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of Iowa Ag Matters here on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. We will be back with more on Monday. Have a great weekend. You're listening to the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network.